Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books right here in the live studios in Hythe, southeast England, just near the English Channel. It's called the Haven because Hythe in Anglo-Saxon translates into haven. Anyway, we're here. We just arrived this afternoon, and we're a little bit, what can I say? We had to set everything up, settle in, and we're just a little bit late, but not too late. So welcome back, and let us get right into it. Today we're going to continue the reading of the Krishna book. Everyone's favorite, I call it, you know. But before we do, let us recite the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram, which is Śrīla Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which the Krishna book is a summary of the 10th canto. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kalidvandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshak Shavayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mad Nishtadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhuta dayin atini chochata kada hanamuncha gadachin mam premna rit kantayok spuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we're on the first chapter, the advent of Lord Krishna. And Kṛṣṇa, the brother of Devaki, is driving the chariot on the wedding day of Devaki and Vyāsadeva. Because it's the custom, because the bride may feel awkward without the family, her own family. So the brother usually goes with the sister to take her to the new family. So we're in the middle of a discussion, not really a discussion. Vyāsadeva is preaching to Kṛṣṇa because on the way, Kṛṣṇa heard a disembodied sound that told him that he was a fool because he didn't even know that the 8th child of this woman was going to kill him. And he was such a rascal that he took his sword out and was about ready to cut Devaki's head off. That's what kind of man he is. So Vyāsadeva is preaching to Kṛṣṇa. And we're starting on the chapter, on the paragraph in the first chapter, beginning, the nature of the mind is flickering. So Vyāsadeva is speaking to Kṛṣṇa. The nature of the mind is flickering. Sometimes it accepts something and immediately it rejects the same thing. Accepting and rejecting is the process of the mind in contact with the 5 objects of sense gratification: form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. In its speculative way, the mind comes in touch with the objects of sense gratification. And when the living entity desires a particular type of body, he gets it. Therefore, the body is an offering by the laws of material nature. The living entity accepts a body and comes out again into the material world to enjoy or suffer according to the construction of the body. Unless we have a particular type of body, we cannot enjoy or suffer according to our mental proclivities inherited from the previous life. The particular type of body is actually offered to us according to our mental condition at the time of death. The luminous planets like the sun, moon, or stars reflect themselves in different types of reservoirs like water, oil, or ghee. The reflection moves according to the movement of the reservoir. The reflection of the moon is on the water, and the moving water makes the moon also appear to be moving. But actually, the moon is not moving. Similarly, by mental concoction, the living entity attains different types of bodies, although actually he has no connection with such bodies. But on account of illusion, being enchanted by the influence of Maya, the living entity thinks that he belongs to a particular type of body. That is the way of conditioned life. Suppose a living entity is now in a human form of body. He thinks that he belongs to the human community, or a particular country, or particular place. He identifies himself in that way and unnecessarily prepares for another body, which is not required by him. Such desires and mental concoctions are the cause of different types of bodies. The covering influence of material nature is so strong that the living entity is satisfied in whatever body he gets, and he identifies with that body with great pleasure. Therefore, I beg to request you not to be overwhelmed by the dictation of your mind and body. Vyāsadeva thus requested Kṛṣṇa not to be envious of his newly married sister. One should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear, both in this world and in the next. When one is before Yamaraj, the Lord of punishment after death. Vyāsadeva appealed to Kṛṣṇa on behalf of Devaki, stating that she was his younger sister. He also appealed at an auspicious moment, at the time of marriage. A younger sister or brother is supposed to be protected as one's child. The position is overall so delicate, Vāsadeva reasoned, that if you kill her, it will go against your high reputation. In this way, Vāsadeva tried to pacify Kṛṣṇa by good instruction, as well as by philosophical discrimination. But Kṛṣṇa was not to be pacified, because his association was demoniac. Because of his demoniac association, he was a demon, although born in a very high royal family. A demon never cares for any good instruction. He is just like a determined thief. One can give him moral instruction, but it will not be effective. Similarly, those who are demoniac or atheistic by nature can hardly assimilate any good instruction, however authorized it may be. That is the difference between demigods and demons. Those who can accept good instruction and try to live their lives in that way are called demigods, and those who are unable to take good instruction are called demons. Failing in his attempt to pacify Kṛṣṇa, Vāsadeva wondered how he would protect his wife, Devaki. When there is imminent danger, an intelligent person should try to avoid the dangerous position as far as possible. But if, in spite of endeavoring with all intelligence, one fails to avoid the dangerous position, there is no fault on his part. One should try his best to execute his duties, but if the attempt fails, he is not at fault. Vāsadeva thought of his wife as follows: for the present, let me save the life of Devaki. Then, later on, if there are children, I shall see how to save them. He further thought, if in the future I get a child who can kill Kṛṣṇa, just as Kṛṣṇa is thinking, then both Devaki and the child will be saved, because the law of providence is inconceivable. But now, some way or other, let me save the life of Devaki. There is no certainty how a living entity contacts a certain type of body, just as there is no certainty how a blazing fire comes in contact with a certain type of wood in the forest. When there is a forest fire, it is experienced that the blazing fire sometimes leaps over one tree and catches another by the influence of the wind. Similarly, a living entity may be very careful in the matter of executing his duties, but it is still very difficult for him to know what type of body he is going to get in the next life. Maharaj Bharat was very faithfully executing the duties of self-realization, but by chance he developed temporary affection for a deer, and in his next life he had to accept the body of a deer. Vāsadeva, after deliberating on how to save his wife, began to speak to Kṛṣṇa with great respect, although Kṛṣṇa was the most sinful man. Sometimes it happens that a most virtuous person like Vāsadeva has to flatter a person like Kṛṣṇa, a most vicious person. That is the way of all diplomatic transactions. Although Vāsadeva was deeply aggrieved, he smiled outwardly. He addressed the shameless Kṛṣṇa in that way because he was so atrocious. Vāsadeva said to Kṛṣṇa, "My dear brother-in-law, please consider that you have no danger from your sister. You are awaiting some danger because you have heard a prophetic voice in the sky. but the danger is to come from the sons of your sister, who are not present now, and who knows, there may or may not be sons in the future. Considering all this, you are safe for the present, nor is there cause of fear from your sister. If there are any sons born of her, I promise that I shall present all of them to you for necessary action. Kṛṣṇa knew the value of Vasudeva's word of honor. Kṛṣṇa knew the value of Vasudeva's word of honor, and he was convinced by his argument. For the time being, he desisted from the heinous killing of his sister. Thus Vāsadeva was pleased and praised the decision of Kṛṣṇa. In this way, he returned to his home. Each year thereafter, in due course of time, Devaki gave birth to a child. Thus, she gave birth to 8 male children, as well as 1 daughter. When the first son was born, Vāsadeva kept his word of honor and immediately brought the child before Kṛṣṇa. It is said that Vāsadeva was very much elevated and famous for his word of honor, and he wanted to maintain this fame. Although it was very painful for Vāsadeva to hand over the newly born child, Kṛṣṇa was very glad to receive him. But he became a little compassionate with the behavior of Vāsadeva. This event is very exemplary. For a great soul like Vāsadeva, there is nothing considered to be painful in the course of discharging one's duty. A learned person like Vāsadeva carries out his duties without hesitation. On the other hand, a demon like Kṛṣṇa never hesitates in committing any abominable action. It is said, therefore, that a saintly person can tolerate all kinds of miserable conditions of life. A learned man can discharge his duties without awaiting favorable circumstances. A heinous person, like Kṛṣṇa, can act in any sinful way, and a devotee can sacrifice everything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kṛṣṇa became satisfied by the action of Vāsadeva. He was surprised to see Vāsadeva keeping his promise, and being compassionate upon him and pleased, he began to speak as follows. My dear Vāsadeva, you need not present this child to me. I am not in danger from this child. I have heard that the 8th child born of you and Devaki will kill me. Why should I accept this child unnecessarily? You can take him back. When Vāsadeva was returning home with his firstborn child, although he was pleased by the behavior of Kṛṣṇa, he could not believe in him because he knew that Kṛṣṇa was uncontrolled. An atheistic person cannot be firm in his word of honor. One who cannot control the senses cannot be steady in his determination. The great politician Chanakya Pandit said, "Never put your trust in a diplomat or a woman." Those who are addicted to unrestricted sense gratification can never be truthful, nor can they be trusted with any faith. At that time, the great sage Narada came to Kṛṣṇa. He was informed of Kṛṣṇa's being compassionate to Vāsadeva and returning his firstborn child. Narada was very eager to accelerate the descent of Lord Krishna as soon as possible. He therefore informed Kṛṣṇa that in Vrindavan, personalities like Nanda Maharaj and all the other cowherd men and their wives, and on the other side Vāsadeva, his father Shurasena, and all his relatives born in the family of Vrishni of the Yadu dynasty, along with all their friends and well-wishers were actually demigods. Narada warned Kṛṣṇa to be careful of them, since Kṛṣṇa and his friends and advisors were all demons. Demons are always afraid of demigods. After being informed by Narada about the appearance of the demigods in different families, Kṛṣṇa at once became very much alarmed. He understood that since the demigods had already appeared, Lord Vishnu must be coming soon. He at once arrested both his brother-in-law Vāsadeva and Devaki and put them behind prison bars. What a rascal. Within the prison, shackled in iron chains, Vāsadeva and Devaki gave birth to a male child year after year, and Kṛṣṇa, thinking each of the babies to be the incarnation of Vishnu, killed them one after another. He was particularly afraid of the 8th child, but after the visit of Narada, he came to the conclusion that any child might be Krishna. Therefore, it was better to kill all the babies who took birth from Devaki and Vāsadeva. This action of Kṛṣṇa is not very difficult to understand. In the history of the world, there are many instances of persons in the royal order who have killed their father, brother, or whole family and friends for the satisfaction of their ambitions. There is nothing astonishing about this, for members of the demoniac, greedy royal order can kill anyone for their nefarious ambitions. Kṛṣṇa was made aware of his previous birth by the grace of Narada. He learned that in his previous birth he had been a demon of the name Kalanemi, and that he had been killed by Vishnu. Having now taken his birth in the Bhoja family, he decided to become the deadly enemy of the Yadu dynasty. Krishna was going to take birth in that family, and Kṛṣṇa was very much afraid that he would be killed by Krishna, just as he had been killed in his last birth. He first of all imprisoned his father, Ugrasena, because he was the chief king among the Yadu, Bhoja, and Andaka dynasties. And he also occupied the kingdom of Śrīla, Vāsudeva's father. He declared himself the king of all such places. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the first chapter of Krishna, the advent of Lord Krishna. So the plot thickens, and we will begin chapter 2. Prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. Now this, I'm going to ask a favor from everyone out there in cyberspace, and also Shyam Kishore here with me. We traveled all the way from Hereford, and as soon as we got here, we set the whole place back up again and got the darshan of our altar, which we had put away for the month we were gone. And I'm feeling a little taxed at the moment. So please don't mind. I'm going to stop there. It's a good stopping place. It's in the end of a chapter. And then and this chapter of the prayers by the demigods is very deep and very substantially long. So I want to do it all at once tomorrow. So with that, I thank you all very much for being present and for being eager to hear, because this quality of being eager to hear about Krishna is the single most important quality to have in order to develop love for Krishna. The eagerness to hear the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita is the, how do you say, the currency with which you can purchase Krishna. So I offer my humble obeisances to all of those of you who are out there in cyberspace, hearing this daily readings every day, for your eagerness to hear Hare Krishna. So it is 7:47, and if we can have reflections or any points that came out. This is a very important philosophical discussion by Vyāsadeva to Kṛṣṇa. You can just imagine how elevated the culture was at that time, when in such a situation, Vyāsadeva can even have the time to say all the things that he did to Kṛṣṇa. And he would sit there and listen to him. This is symptomatic of the Vedic culture, actually. Everyone was very exalted in different ways. Okay, Hare Krishna. We'll stop there.
This is from Saloni Sachi Sundari.
Hare Krishna, Saloni Sachi Sundari.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi, thank you very much for coming to hear, and I hope you are regular. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranams Maharaj. Hare Krishna. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda and all the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
This is from Gopakanya Devidasi.
Gopakanya Devidasi. Hare Krishna.
Jai Maharaj. Hare Krishna. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda and your transcendental daily readings, service of Krishna Katha. From Braj Vallabha.
Hey Braj, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. The discussion about identification with the body identification. I realized if I were to share the statements in public, I would be deemed a madman. This is the way of the material world.
Yes, and actually, Lord Chaitanya said, this is the way of becoming fully Krishna conscious, becoming a madman for Krishna, to become mad after Krishna. Lord Chaitanya said this to Ramananda Roy, you and I are madmen. But let anyone think that, because actually we're not madmen. We are mad after Krishna.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi, Krishna book reading Ki Jai.
Haribo, Haribo.
Charlie Davidson, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribo, Bhakti Charlie.
Gopakanya Devidasi. Blessed to see you back to that small Vrindavan Dham, beautifully and lovingly decorated temple.
Hare Krishna, thank you. It's small, but it's very, very comfortable. It fits me in all ways. Hare Krishna, thank you.
This is from Yadutama.
Haribo Yadutama.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. I found a comment that envy causes fear very interesting. Could you please comment a little further? Does this mean that when we experience fear, that we can identify it as envy?
No, it means that envy is the cause of fear. Because envy means that if you see another person doing well, you feel bad. And if you see somebody doing bad, you feel good. That's one of the symptoms of envy. Then if a person's in an exalted position, as Kṛṣṇa was, and is envious, then everyone is a threat. He sees anybody who's coming up as a threat to his position, and therefore he'll do anything. And he's fearful. Fearful of losing his position. Now, it is also a fact that Prabhupada told us, and it's in the Bhagavatam also, that everyone who comes to this material world is envious of everyone else to one degree or another. Because everyone is trying to be Krishna or be like Krishna. And therefore, there's a constant competition going on everywhere, all the time. It comes out differently at different times and places because of the different degrees of cultural sophistication or whatever. It used to be, I heard Gopi Pranadana Prabhu analyze history in this regard. He said it used to be that the most efficient way to deal with a group of people who are threatening or who you want to overlord, that just genocide. It was efficient, it was cheap. But now that same tendency has been made more subtle, and it doesn't seem to be so dangerous. It's benign, but it's the same thing. You know, governments, multinational corporations, they have these interdependent relationships and diplomacy, and they do the same thing. They dominate other people, you know, for their own gratification. But it's the same business. It's envy. And envy causes fear, and fear can cause you to do anything. Because self-preservation is the strongest emotion. Self-preservation. Anyone will save himself. If there's a dangerous situation, the tendency is to save yourself first. Even in spiritual life, we should first save ourselves. Because if you go fishing for a big fish and you're not equipped with the proper paraphernalia and strength and whatever, catch a big marlin or a big shark, it'll just pull you right into the ocean and you'll drown. Mm-hmm. So if you want to preach for the big fish, then you better be prepared. You better be equipped. The devotees are fearless because they don't envy others. But at the same time, the devotees have what is called, Prabhupada called, a healthy fear of Maya. Because they know how powerful Maya is. And they don't want to become entangled again in Maya. I think everyone may know the story. Prabhupada was paying obeisances after a class. I think it was either in London or Vrindavan. And he had said in the class that he will never fall down. So after that class, he was offering prayers to the deities. And it looked to the devotee, the servant, like he was particularly intense. And so when they got back up to the room, the servant asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I noticed that you were praying very intensely to the deities today. Well, can I ask what the reason was? Or what you were praying? He said, yes, I was praying to the deities that I will never fall down. I'll never fall into Maya again. And he said, well, that's very surprising because you just said in the class that you'll never fall down. And Prabhupada said, yes, because I'm always praying to the deities that I'll never fall down. That's what's called a healthy fear of Maya. The devotee actually, an elevated devotee is in no danger of falling down. But because of his humility and his respect for the material energy, because Maya is the pure devotee of Krishna also, and her thankless task is to keep us under her control. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi.
Hare Krishna Premavati.
Krishna.
I gave her the name and I can't say it. Sorry. Hare Krishna.
This deliberation of Vasudev makes me think of the dangers of COVID, vaccination, and long-term problems that may follow.
Yes, because there's always going to be people who don't like to be told what to do. And that's another qualification of a demon, which we heard in this reading today. The demon is a person who doesn't take good advice, cannot take good instructions. You give him good instructions and he just becomes angry and he can't accept anything. And the other tendency of a demoniac leader is the association that he keeps. Even if he makes the right decision, he goes back to his advisors and they convince him to do the wrong thing. Jarasandha, witness Jarasandha. 17 times he tried to attack Krishna and defeat Krishna in Mathura. And every time his whole army was killed. Krishna and Balaram weren't even touched. And they purposely kept him alive just so he would be completely embarrassed. He went back to his demoniac friends and they said, this was just a fluke. You know, this Krishna, you know, you're so powerful, it was just a fluke. Don't worry. And he listens to that because that's what he wants to hear. So he'll listen to bad instruction, but he won't listen to good instruction. Hare Krishna.
Nijadam Das said Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Nijadam Das.
Bhaktarupa Das, thank you Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Bhaktarupa. Congratulations, I forgot to congratulate you when I found out what your name was. From Bhakta-Ben to Bhakta-Das, that's pretty good. Bhaktarupa, I mean, it's pretty good. So congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Yadu Tamadas, another question. Why did Ugrasena not object to Kamsa putting him in prison?
Oh, he might have objected, but he was powerful. He had at his disposal the army. That's why people fear the demoniac kings. When a king has got a powerful army, he can do anything. So he was incarcerated by force. It would be useless to protest. If they protested, they'll just kill him. Anyway, in this way he got to stay alive, and when Krishna killed Kṛṣṇa, then he became the king again.
From Anandamurti Devidasi. Thank you so much, Gurudev. Why Narada remind Kamsa about his past? As a result, Kamsa became more demoniac?
Because Narada wants to see Krishna appear as soon as possible. So he told him that to precipitate Krishna's appearance.
Mantati Rashmi. Thank you, Maharaj. The moon reflection.
Say the name again. Sorry, I couldn't understand.
Sorry, Mantati
Mantati?
Rashmi.
Mantati Rashmi. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. The moon reflection analogy is wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, this is Rajalakshmi.
Oh, it's Rajalakshmi. Hare Krishna Rajalakshmi. We made it safe and sound, and we put Gopal on our altar. Can you see? Can you see in the video? Can you see?
Yeah, you can see it. Yes, we can see.
Rajalakshmi, who we just stayed with for 5 weeks, gave us a going away present, a little beautiful deity encased in a very nice little case of Gopal, the deity that was installed by Madhavendra Puri on the top of Govardhan Hill.
Dachari Haridas.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Thank you for the reading. It's interesting that even though a demon like Kamsa can't hear good instructions, he was still temporarily won over by Vasudeva's character. I guess it demonstrates pure devotees are attractive to all people.
Yes, and it also illustrates that if you have very good character, your word is as good as gold. And therefore, even a person like Kṛṣṇa will believe it. So character, truthfulness, character, good character. There's those lists of good qualities in the beginning of the 16th chapter, what the divine qualities are, the actual qualities of the soul. And they all emote, just like even when they have movies and dramas and plays and books, fiction books. You know, whenever there's a person of lofty character, he's always elevated. He's always praised by people in general. And people always root for the hero who has good qualities. Is honest, sincere.
Alice Bainham, thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Pramavati Devidasi said, Little Gopal ki jai.
Jai ho, Gopal. Thank you very much, everyone, and also for being patient with me, because anyway, I'm coming back to full strength. It'll maybe take a few more days before I am full strength, but I will be with you every day, I promise. You can take it on my word. I'll be with you every day. Of course, there may be some emergency or something like that, but in general, I'll be here every day. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur, Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. We'll see you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same topic. The wonderful pastimes of Krishna, the hearing of which can conquer the material energy. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.